Welcome. Can you believe it's almost December? And next Sunday is the first Sunday of Advent. And in today's Gospel, we're coming to the end of Luke's first part, where he has Jesus coming up into Jerusalem with the disciples. And next section is the passion and death and resurrection of Jesus. So when they get to Jerusalem, what Jesus does is instruct the disciples about what it might mean for them to be faithful followers of his, to be what we would call today missionary disciples of Jesus. And he says, if you follow me closely and faithfully, you will have to face the same music as I'm going to have to face. And he used three words. He talked about persecution, betrayal, and death. And we know that Jesus persevered in this line. He was true to his Father and his Father's will. He was true to the mission that the Father had given him. And he was true to his disciples who followed in faith. And Jesus says, if you want to follow me, you want to come after me, you take up your cross and follow me. And he used those three words of persecution, betrayal, and death to resume or summarize what that might mean. And of course, Jesus lived the consequences of that. He, like a prophet, like so many prophets before him, was killed outside the walls of Jerusalem because his words were countercultural. His words were prophetic. His words unsettled the establishment of his day. But the fruit of that, of course, was life, eternal life, the fullness of life, for him and for us. And I couldn't help but think of the situation in the Middle East today. And I lament that the Jewish people, or the Jewish leaders, were sucked into a trap. Sure, there were 1,200 of them slaughtered in brutal ways. But all the bombs and all the tanks and all the destruction in Gaza doesn't return one of those 1,200 people. Not one is recovered by all the killing, destruction that has followed. And it was Jesus who said, no more eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. All you end up with is toothless, blind people. Jesus said, turn the other cheek, love your enemies. And if the Jews had only done that, a people with such a strong identity, with such profound culture, and with a rather tortuous but long history, could still be seduced into falling into a trap and trusting not in Yahweh, but in their arms, in their tanks and their planes and their soldiers. Pope Francis says very, very clearly, nobody wins a war, everybody loses. And if they had not fought, if they had not gone in, they could still negotiate the release of the hostages, the same as they're doing now. They could still be bargaining with the prisoners, the Palestinian prisoners in Israel, and releasing them as the hostages is released. So I just think it's so sad that Jesus' message is so often ignored as folly or as pipe dream. But it's so real, and it's full of facts and reality and opportunities for all of us. So I pray that this Christmas, when we recognize the coming of the Prince of Peace, that we might in fact have peace in our own lives, in our own hearts, in our own families, and in our own neighbourhoods. There be no more wars in the world, as we have at the moment, and there be no more violence in the families or in the communities. God bless you, and thank you again.